But the reason why Paul Blackburn was designated for assignment is because the Mets needed to make room for young Nolan Mclean. Nolan Mclean, the rookie, made his major league debut on Saturday. I was live in attendance to see it. And Nolan Mclean, there were rumors that somebody was going to get called up Saturday. Frankie Montas was originally scheduled to pitch, to be the starter on Saturday. More on him in a minute. But Montas was scheduled to pitch Saturday against the Mariners, and Carlos Mendoza, David Stearns, they intervened. They said, no. We're going to go move Montas to the bullpen, and we're going to call up one of the kids. Some people said Brandon Sproat. Some people said McLean. Ultimately, McLean got the nod. And what a debut Nolan Mclean had. Nolan Mclean, 5 1/3 innings, 5 1/3 scoreless innings, by the way. 8 strikeouts in his 5 1/3 innings. He did get the win. You want to go even more in depth on his stat line. He only gave up 2 hits in his 5 1/3 innings. Walks were a little high. He walked 4 batters, but he struck out 8. I was very impressed with Nolan Mclean. Nolan Mclean, fantastic outing. I was very impressed with his poise. Even when he got into trouble on the base paths, there were at times he had runners on first and second. Sometimes he had runners on second and third. There's a clip out there. I don't want to get a YouTube copyright strike, but there is a clip out there where Nolan Mclean was pitching against Seattle, one of Seattle's great players, Julio Rodriguez, all-star this year, by the way. And he made an insane, with runners on first and second, McLean takes a ground ball, makes a crazy behind-the-back catch to initiate the double play. This kid McLean, if I didn't know any better, I would have said that he's pitched in the majors before with the way that he looked. Velocity on the fastball was good. I was very impressed by Nolan Mclean. I was unsure, to be honest with you guys, of what to think about McLean, only because the last time the Mets called up a top starting pitching prospect, we saw how that went with Blade Tidwell, who was just god-awful. But McLean, Nolan Mclean, just very, very impressive in his major league debut. McLean, again, called up 5 1/3 scoreless inning in a game where the Mets only surrendered 1 run. In a game where the pitching staff, on a team where the pitching staff has been atrocious for the better part of a month and a half, it's very welcoming to see a game that the Mets not only win, but that the Mets only surrender 1 run. Of course, the 1 run being Eugenio Suarez home run off of Edwin Diaz in the top of the 9th. But do I think that McLean can sustain this long term? Well, let's see. According to the pitching schedule, if I could pull it up, Mets have 3 in Washington. Off day today. So McLean not factored in anything. The pitching matchups only updated for the Washington series. And we'll talk about that a little bit later. But Nolan Mclean, matter of fact, I couldn't make a prediction here because, the pitchers pitch every 5 days. He's not going to see action in the Washington series because he pitched Saturday. But Nolan Mclean should go up. Oh, wow. The next test for Nolan Mclean will be against the Braves. Mets have a weekend series this weekend in Atlanta against the Braves. But again, is this sustainable? You can't judge how a career is going to go based off of one start. But I have absolutely liked what I see. Again, McLean has the poise of a big leaguer. McLean, when he was in trouble, he didn't sweat. His body language stayed the same. His energy stayed the same. Because that ball that Julio Rodriguez hit, if McLean doesn't make that behind the back catch, that's a worm burner single up the middle. Runner's gonna score. Especially with Dom Canzone on the base pads. He was at second base. Dominic Canzone, one of the speedsters in Major League Baseball. But again, I like what I've seen out of McLean. Now here's an interesting factoids about McLean in this start. Nolan Mclean is the first Mets pitcher to have 8 strikeouts in a debut since Zach Wheeler back in 2013. Zach Wheeler, now the ace of the Phillies again. He's gone for foreseeably the rest of the season, but Zach Wheeler, a mighty decent pitcher. So that and only 2 pitchers in Mets history to do so. Even the great Tom Seaver never had 8 strikeouts in his MLB debut. So that's that. And you can tell the fan base loves McLean because when McLean was being taken out of the game by Carlos Mendoza, the crowd booed. They wanted McLean to stay in there. His pitch count was 91 pitches when he was removed from the game. I have never heard a home crowd boo because their starting pitcher was getting taken out. I've heard them boo because their starting pitcher gave up 8 runs, but never because he was taken out after a great outing. But it's just great to see this kid get an opportunity at this juncture in the season, knowing that the season is potentially on the line with every game that's played the rest of the way. And he made the best of it. First MLB at bat. First batter he faced, Randy Arozarena, who's a pretty darn good ball player. McLean struck him out. Also, McLean, the first Mets pitcher in forever to get into the 6th inning, where usually the 5th inning and even sometimes the 4th has been kryptonite for a lot of these Mets pitchers. I'm excited to see what Nolan Mclean can do the rest of the way. The Mets, obviously, again, you can't judge it just on one game, but so far, I think they made the right choice over him over Sproat. Again, they tried the top starting pitching prospect experiment with Blade Tidwell, and it didn't go well. But the Nolan Mclean experiment seems to be going much better than the Blade Tidwell experiment.